Um, I can always edit. Oh, great. Mariana is also here, so I'll admit them both. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this lunchtime working group session on social media. I think I've met m most of you. Hi, Polly. Hi, Mariana.
Hi everyone.
Just wait for Millie to connect to audio. We're going to be a small group today. I think we have about 10 people signed up, and we usually see a bit of a drop-off rate. So um, we may wait one more minute and then get going. But I will take the opportunity to give a bit of background to this session. We did a session in April around how to engage with fundraisers who have a strictly no unsolicited applicants um, requirement on their applications. And one of the big pieces to come out of that session was around using your social media as your shop front, or as your method to engage with new donors, new supporters, new audiences. And so Rebecca very kindly is here today to support our learning on that, because a lot of our members are new to social media or don't have much capacity, and so are doing social media on top of everything else. So it felt like a good lunchtime 1 hour session, just to take us back to some basics and think about how we could make the best use of that. And I'm really pleased that Rebecca is here today, because Rebecca's background is in business, and in building particularly small businesses. But I was really excited about her being able to speak from a business perspective, because, of course, donors are likely to be businesses, and so it's the language that we need to be speaking, which is also probably the language we are least comfortable with. So thank you, Rebecca, for coming along today. I'm going to pass over to you. I'm just going to pop in the chat our guidelines for online spaces, and also introduce yourselves, please, if you want to. Yeah, go for it, Rebecca.
Hi everybody. Thank you for joining this session with us today. My name is Rebecca. Thank you, Hannah, for a lovely introduction. So, as Hannah mentioned, I come from more of a corporate business background, and I've been helping Sweden with our comms for the last probably year and a half, possibly. Managing our social media, trying to tidy up our online presence, and see what we can do to extend our reach. So, I've put together workshops today that I hope will be helpful for you guys in approaching social media in a way that's not overwhelming, that can be streamlined and efficient, and most importantly, effective in reaching new audiences, including potential donors, and looking at how social media is really useful as a tool for that. So, as a bit of a background, although I have a background in marketing, I'm actually not much of a fan of social media myself. So I know a lot of people feel the same way. And I guess, especially when you're in a small charity and you're probably strict on resource and capacity and you're wearing a lot of hats, unless you're somebody that's naturally inclined towards social media, it feels like a bit of a chore. And I totally get that. But I think also we need to appreciate it for what it is. And it is an amazing, very practically free tool for us to use to reach potentially thousands of people and push our cause and communicate the important work that we're doing. So that is what the workshop's going to be about today. We're going to be talking about why social media is important for small charities, how we can create more structures to make it less time consuming and less overwhelming to be consistent, thinking about how we can show up visually in the right way, writing a great caption, and choosing what platforms and what strategies right for us, and then understanding what's working and what's not. So I'm going to touch on lots of little things, but hopefully it'll be a useful kind of simple, straightforward guide that you guys can use to either kickstart your social media strategy or audit what you're currently doing. So I actually can't see the chat in my browser, but I'm wondering if you guys wanted to come off mute if you feel comfortable, and let me know how you currently feel about social media. Do you feel like you're confident? Do you like social media? Do you find it fun? Do you feel like you would rather never see it ever again? Let me know where you guys are at currently with your social media strategy. Feel free to come off mute, or you can put it in the chat if you want. Yeah.
But Rebecca, in general or work-wise?
Yeah, and I mean work-wise in general, either or. Let me know your thoughts.
I would say overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes you feel overwhelmed about it at the moment?
Well, there's so many different platforms to keep up, and you know, I don't really know which would be the best, which not which, but for every audience. And so for me, it's a bit complicated just to determine which one would be best.
Yeah. I'm going to cover a little bit about that in one of the next slides, so hopefully that will be helpful for you. Hannah, I can't see in the chat where I'm showing my screen. Could you let me know if anyone sent a message?
Yeah, so Polly says she's avoiding it completely. And I have said I'm also overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And I don't personally have a personal social media profile. I used to have one for my business. But now I only use social media for like my clients when I'm supporting Swidden. So I completely get why you would want to avoid it, because there's just so much noise. There's so many should have, would have, could have things that you're considering. And especially in a work sense, you want to do the best job for your charity or the company you're working for, right? So it's kind of also that pressure of making the right decision, usually with small resource, small amount of time. It's really, really tricky. So one thing I guess I'd love to highlight is that when you're approaching social media strategy or content creation, just try your best not to get hung up on perfectionism, because that can make things so much harder and put so much more pressure on ourselves, when really we should be thinking about done is better than perfect, and consistency is the key. So I think especially when we might be comparing ourselves to maybe larger charities or successful corporations that have massive marketing budgets and massive content creation budgets, it's really easy to feel like what we're doing isn't enough or isn't making the impact that we want. So yeah, I guess one thing I would just love you guys to feel is that things that need to be perfect, we just need to try our best, and sometimes that is more than enough for what we need to do. So ultimately, I feel like we're all kind of in the same boat about how we might feel about social media, but really, like I said, it is an incredible tool. So from a positive standpoint, social media is an amazing trust building tool, and trust builds engagement and tangible action. So obviously what we want to do is we want people that come across our cause and our charity to trust us and believe in us and want to get involved. And social media is a really, really great free tool to help nurture that relationship. It's not just about advertising. It's not just about asking people to like making an ask constantly and wanting people to donate and do A, B, and C. It's really a way to build those relationships. So I'm sure for all of us that are watching this workshop, we really believe in the work that we're trying to do and the causes that we're trying to support. So social media is just a way for us to kind of amplify and use like you know, a virtual tannoy to spread that message. So in a positive sense, it's an amazing tool for doing that. So a few of the things that social media benefits small charities with is awareness. So letting people know that we exist. There's a massive audience and potential pool of people that might not know about your cause that we can reach for free through social media. So let people know that you exist. Building trust and showing that your work you're doing actually makes a positive difference in the world. Most people, no matter if they are, I don't know, part of the sector or naturally inclined towards its causes, people want to support positive changes in the world. So it's a really good way to build trust and show that you're an organization that's doing that. It's a great way to engage, so you can build conversations and have conversations with so many people that you wouldn't be able to reach otherwise. Every person that is on Instagram, for example, has a DM and a direct message that you can send to them. So that's really an incredible opportunity. If we're not making the most of that, it can be we could be missing out on a lot of opportunities there. Fundraising, again, something that's really, really important to everyone that's really watching this workshop. Without fundraising, we are not going to be able to do the work that we want to do, especially since grants are being reduced. It's really important that we create our own streams of fundraising that are sustainable and that we get as many people on board as possible. So social media can help motivate support for those causes and advocacy. So alongside, obviously, financial support, creating champions of our causes just by encouraging people to share the message is really, really important. If we don't have opportunities for them to easily share the message, they're not going to do that. And social media makes it as easy as possible in its nature for people to share content and share messages with their networks and the community. So that's a really, really important thing for us. So the other thing that I want to, I guess, highlight is that people rarely engage after just one encounter with us or with the message. So I don't know if a lot of you are maybe finding that with your social media strategy, maybe when you post something, you feel like it's kind of not being engaged with. Maybe you're not getting as many likes as you'd want to see. Maybe you're not getting as much engagement. And that can be really, really disheartening, especially when you've put a lot of effort into maintaining your social media account and creating the content. It can be really disheartening when somebody's not engaging. But people usually need to see multiple messages before they will engage. So I just want to kind of reassure you, if you feel like you're not getting much traction or you're not getting, X number of likes, whatever your goal is, people are still going to be resonating with what you're saying, and they need to see it multiple times, which is really, really important that we're showing up. Without social media as part of our comms strategy, or without being consistent with it and actually investing time in creating a strategy that's working, then we're kind of missing an opportunity to have those multiple touch points with the people that want to engage with us. For example, if we're just meeting people at events or like networking, etc., once we've kind of left that conversation, there's not a natural touch point for them to keep in touch with us. And like I said, in order for people to take tangible action, whether that's donating, supporting with their time, sharing our message in our work, in order to take tangible action, people need to have seen that message multiple times. So social media is a really great way for us to make sure that we're always at the forefront of their mind, and that we build that familiarity with them. So all of these things are obviously reasons why it's really important to invest in a social media strategy. But it can feel overwhelming to do that, especially when you are a small team and you're not naturally inclined towards social media. It can feel like really hard, really boring, and especially when you're not getting the response you want, it can be a bit demotivating. So where do we actually start with this strategy to make sure it's sustainable, manageable, and effective? So the first thing, which we've already kind of touched on, is how do we choose the right platform? So we've kind of already discussed that it's pretty overwhelming. There's so many platforms now that each need their own, I guess, tweak to the strategy. They all have different approaches, and it can be really hard to decide what the right one is. And there's almost this pressure to kind of be everywhere, because you feel like if we're not here, we're going to miss out on this, or if we're not here, we'll miss out on that. So choosing the right platform feels like a really, really important decision, and it is. But one thing I would want to stress is that we want to be thinking about what we have the capacity to be consistent with. So yes, in an ideal world, if we had all the budget in the world and all the time in the world, we would want to be in all the places and have the most amazing content strategy tailored to each platform. But the reality is, for most small charities, is that we don't have a lot of resource, we don't have a lot of time. We might not even have a member in our team that is experienced or specialized in social media. So what I would do is ask yourself a couple of questions, and some other topics might come into this, but the key questions are, what are we trying to do? So for example, if you're looking to build kind of support for local causes, Facebook is an amazing tool for that. It's still really great and a leader in community building, kind of building volunteer teams, anything that's very location specific and localized. Facebook is a really great platform for that sort of goal. Instagram, obviously, you can reach people globally. It's great for visual storytelling. Younger audiences tend to be on there. LinkedIn is amazing for corporate supporters, corporate partners, and funders. Email is, although it's not a social media platform, it's something that I think is so important to have within our comm strategy as an email marketing strategy, because this is kind of like one of the stages that people go through when they're almost there to become a true champion and supporter of our cause. If people are really engaged with you, they will want to have you in their inbox. And when you're in the inbox, that's one of the best places to be in terms of converting awareness into tangible action. And then X, so this X and Blue Sky are similar in terms of how they work and the sort of content that's on there. So it's very much about what's in the news, what's in the media, core advocacy, and thinking about those I guess emerging conversations. So in terms of X and Blue Sky, one thing that might come up within your team is ethically, where do we want to be? Do we want to be seen on X, or do we not want to be on there? You'll have all these other side questions that kind of come up when you're deciding what platform to be on, and those equally valid as well to consider. But I guess in this workshop, what I want to just highlight is that each platform has pros and cons, and some are better at helping you achieve certain goals than others. So that's probably one of the core things that you want to consider. Then the other thing is, what can we realistically create? So how much capacity do we have within our team to create certain types of content? Certain platforms, for example, TikTok and Instagram, are more optimized towards video. So if you guys don't have either a really good bank of video content that you've already had created, or you don't have the capacity to take new video content, there's not really much point in committing to being on a video forward platform like Instagram or TikTok, because you're not going to be able to create the content consistently that's needed to that's going to be pushed out to people. You're going to be going on there with maybe some stock photos or just a Canva design you've created, and it's not going to have that draw that you need within that platform. So it's almost going to be a bit of a waste of your time being on there if you can't consistently create the content that it needs. If you can create video, then those platforms are great. If you have really limited photography or video content, like I know that we do at Swidden, then LinkedIn or Blue Sky would be a better fit. So I guess considering what you're trying to do and who you're trying to reach and what can you consistently create. So rather than trying to build all platforms, I'd probably try and select just one or two. And so you can consistently post across those and get some traction. If you've got that all under hand, then you can consider expanding against other platforms.
Rebecca, Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, go on.
I'm not sure if you can see, Mariana has put her hand up. Can you see?
No, I can't. Sorry, you're gonna have to.
Is it all right to ask questions?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Go for
I'd
it, Mariana.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yes. Well, I was wondering, in my previous job, I used to work in a foundation, and we were giving youth indigenous scholarships to finish the high school. But anyway, so we had Instagram and Facebook, and it was very clear that Facebook was used by students and teachers, and the Instagram was used for the US donors. So it was, so the audience was like completely different. So, but at the end, we didn't do much to segment those messages. But at the moment, I work for Chase Africa, and we deliver health services in Africa. So, and we realized that the audience is very balanced. So it's the UK and African people. So, but I was wondering, would you recommend using at the moment we have Facebook and Instagram, but I was thinking of positioning ourselves in Africa, share more program content, and in the UK more storytelling, like more donor-based content. So that my question is around that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to give advice on your particulars without having enough information on that, but I think one thing we could probably consider is that you don't have to have the same strategy across or the same goals for both platforms. So for example, you might want to be on LinkedIn to find specifically corporate donors or supporters, and then you might find that you have a really great local following, whether you're working within Africa, on Facebook, for example, within like local communities. So, but you'd have a different approach to both. So maybe one is more about storytelling and sharing the impact of your work, or maybe engaging with people that are benefiting from the work that you're doing in order to get their feedback and their stories. And then you might have LinkedIn, where you're trying to share information that's tailored towards engaging with corporate partners and support that way. So I kind of think of it as I don't know, like a Venn diagram, I guess, with each platform. There's pros and cons to all, and in an ideal world you'd want to be across all of the platforms, but depending on the resource that you have, you want to prioritize which ones are going to get you to your goals the quickest, and it might be using a combination of both for different reasons. Yeah, I'm not sure if that helps. I wouldn't have like, you know, where your target audience is. I'm not sure exactly where they would be hanging out, so to speak, but I guess my main point is, if you're trying to target different people, you can actually have completely different strategies for different platforms.
Thank you. Yeah, it's also a matter of capacity, right? Because having like the different
and prioritizing
more work, but thank you.
Because that's okay. Because I was going to say is that you can literally copy and paste, as in you can use like a scheduling platform, which you're probably familiar with, and you can literally duplicate the same content. Say, for example, from Facebook, you can post that same content automatically to Instagram and LinkedIn, which is fine, but ideally you want to tailor it to the different platforms, which obviously takes more capacity to have a unique strategy for each platform. But that might be a good way to make sure that you are reaching all the different audiences that you want to reach and communicate with in the best way. Okay, so how do we decide what to post? So you thought about where.
Sorry, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Sorry that Polly's got her hand up as well.
It's good. I love having all the questions.
Go for it, Polly.
Yeah, I think you just answered my question, Rebecca, actually. It was about, you know, if you've got super limited capacity, can you just copy and paste the same content onto different platforms? You know, of course, in an ideal world, you would tailor it to the different audiences. But yes, and you mentioned, because I've never heard of that scheduling platform where you can copy things from Facebook to Instagram. So yeah, so you did answer my question, but I've written it down so I can look it up.
Yeah, I was going to suggest to Hannah as well. And Hannah, I don't mind doing this, but I'm sure there's probably going to be a lot of resources that I mentioned through the workshop. Maybe I could put together a list of links to send out to everyone.
That would be amazing, Rebecca. Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many tools that can save so much time. And I will, collate them into a list, and then I can send them out to everyone. And hopefully that'll be helpful. But yeah, in an ideal world, it'd be great to you would want to tailor the strategy to the different platforms, because they have different approaches in their algorithm, what content they tend to show the most and push out the most. But obviously with limited capacity, it is somewhat better to show up everywhere, even if it's a copy and paste, and to like not show up there at all, I suppose. So like I said, there's tools that definitely can streamline that and automate it, which help a lot, and us being everywhere. Okay, so how do we decide what to post? So what I tend to do is think about having banks of content ideas. So I call them content pillars. Other people call them different names. For most small charities, I would say some core pillars to start with would be impact, connection, and get involved. So these are basically topics of content that you're going to share. And in combination, having these three content pillars means that you are going to be making it as easy as possible for people to go from being aware of you to taking tangible action. And tangible action could be donating, it could be sharing your message with their community, it could be bringing you up in conversation where maybe they're talking about sponsorship budget in a meeting. It could be bringing you up in conversation. It could be subscribing to your email newsletter list. All of these things help us in the long term get more visibility, and essentially have a better chance at getting funding. So if we cover all three topics, people are getting the information that they need in order to make that decision to take action. So the first content pillar that I would probably suggest is impacts. This is sharing stories, it's sharing statistics. It might be some thank yous that you've had from the people that your work has impacted. So sharing why people would want to support your cause and showing that you're actually making a positive difference. That really helps to build trust. And then connection. So people are generally nosy, especially on social media. People are going to social media to find out things that they can't just get from your website. They're going there to get additional content, to understand you a little bit better, get some behind the scenes, understand your team, and build more of a personal relationship. So creating content around building that connection is really, really effective at building close relationships with people that are coming across your social media page. And then the third content pillar would be get involved. So this is going to be event reminders, call to action. So how can they donate? Where can they sign up for your email list? Very practical things and simple things that they can do to get involved and support you. So making sure that you're making that really, really clear and easy accessible. Sometimes I think people feel a little bit uncomfortable with like sharing an ask, I suppose, and asking for people to support you and turn up to your event and share the message. But it's really, really important that you do that. Ultimately, the people that are spending time browsing your social media, they want to support you and get involved. So if we don't let them know how they can do that, make it easy as possible, it's just not going to happen. So if we cover these three content pillars in across our social media strategy, it's a really great way to build trust, let people know that it's a worthwhile cause to get involved with, and let them know how they can get involved and support. In a few slides, I'm going to go through how we actually turn these like content pillars at Swidden, the strategy we use in terms of actually deciding specifically what content to post, like individual topics. I'll show you the whole system that I've been using that makes things super, super easy. But essentially, when you're thinking about what to post, you want to come back to having core pillars that build trust, share your story, and make it as easy as possible for people to get involved with you. Okay, how do we write a great caption? This could be caption / copy. So the same rules apply whether you're writing an Instagram caption or a whole longer post on LinkedIn. How do we write a really engaging piece of text to go along with our visual content? So one of the things that's really important is to have a consistent style laid out before you start creating anything. So we want people to feel familiar with us. So whether they're going from our website to our Instagram to a LinkedIn post or a blog post, ideally you want it to give a sense of familiarity, because familiarity builds trust. And when people trust us, it almost gives us that, I guess, momentum or slip towards them supporting us. So one of the ways we can do that in our copy and our captions is to consider a consistent tone of voice. So is it going to be more formal? Is it going to be more fun? Is it a bit, I don't know, has it got humor to it? Really think about what your tone of voice is and consider writing that down somewhere as a sort of rule book, so that whether you're working on social media or somebody else is working on social media, everyone's on the same page and it kind of feels consistent across the board. One of the ways you can do that is, and this is more of, I guess, a branding task, but I guess depending on your team dynamics and your team setup, you might be also in charge of managing the brand and all of those things. But having some sort of core phrase that you can repeat is a really, really helpful way of immediately triggering that familiarity when people come across your content. Include a call to action. So whenever you are sharing a caption or any piece of copy, you want to make sure that you're including a really, really clear call to action. So you're including your story, your stats, your impact information, whatever you're sharing. Every post you want to have some sort of call to action. It doesn't have to be donate here. It could be, sign up for the email list. It could be check out this previous blog post that we shared. It could be have a look at what our partner's doing, what we've supported them with. They need to have be provided with an opportunity to learn more and spend more time with you online. And create for your audience. So whatever you're writing needs to reflect your goals. So you don't just want to feel like you're posting updates for the sake of posting updates. You want to make sure that whatever you're sharing is supporting the goals that you have with this piece of content, and it's tailored for your audience. So obviously we spoke about different platforms having different people on there. On LinkedIn, if you're speaking with you're trying to engage with corporate sponsors, then they're going to want to see a certain type of language. If you are maybe doing your Facebook strategy and you want to engage with the people that are local to where you're working and where you're supporting, then they might use a different type of language or a different way of speaking. So it's really important to tailor what you're writing to your audience and have it reflect your goals. So as an example, and to be honest, I feel like this is something that a lot of small charities actually do really, really well, because they are because what they're doing actually is genuinely interesting. It's not like, I don't know, you're trying to sell a product and you really have to try and almost get blood out of a stone to make it sound like it's something really interesting that people really want to engage with and buy. Most small charities are actually doing something that's actually really interesting, has a ton of amazing things that people want to find out about, and things that you can be really, really proud of. So it's actually quite easy to write great captions and great words to support our content. But I just wanted to kind of give you an example of these 3 points here in action. So this first phrase here, so you could just put, oh, we delivered food parcels to families in Bristol this week. But what you could do would be use that phrase I mentioned. So maybe in this charity, they always kind of reference this phrase, a little help makes a big difference. So maybe they use that on their website. They might use it on their like LinkedIn header design they have. And then when they're writing posts, they might, not always at the first thing they say, but they might drop it into the captions as well that they've written. And it really adds that key point of familiarity for people to engage with. So you might include a repetitive phrase here, include some specific stats that people would be, I mean, it doesn't have to be with numbers, for example. It doesn't have to be, oh my goodness, that we've just done 10,000 so-and-so. It doesn't have to be big numbers, but just giving specifics helps people imagine, for example, the number of families that you guys are helping, and they want to get involved in that. Maybe they think, oh, I could probably help them reach one more family. So having specific numbers really helps people engage with the cause a little bit more and envision what those actual real impacts and real lives have been affected look like. And then including stories and impact statements from the people that you're helping is really, really valuable. And then having the call to action here at the end. So it could be how can they get involved in your next project. So including all of these 3 points as a sort of like recipe to a really good caption can make sure that you're ticking all of those boxes. Okay, so caption writing. We're not all natural writers, and AI is a tool that can really, really help with that. Obviously, I think AI has a lot of people have mixed feelings around it, around the ethics behind it, which is completely fair. Is it going to be, ruining the creativity that we have as human beings? Is it stealing people's jobs? All of those things, completely valid. But it is also a really great tool that helps make writing more accessible for people. Not everyone's a natural writer. Some people have barriers to writing. And so using AI as a tool to support our content creation is definitely something worth exploring to see if it's right for your charity and your team. Even in terms of time capacity, so being able to create a blog post, for example, with the support of AI can save us so much time and free us up to do things that are more impactful in supporting our cause than spending a few hours writing a blog post. So how can we think about using AI in the right way? So one that's effective for us and one that's, I guess, considering the ethics of what we're doing. So I would always say use it to polish rather than create, because for a few reasons, I'm sure you've all come across captions that have been written or LinkedIn posts that you can just tell have been written by AI. I'm sure some people probably go in there and say, write me a post about decolonization, and then it like AI comes with the whole post and they just go and post that straight away. Not only is that making it seem, people can tell that you haven't put any effort into that, it's going to feel too generic, it's not going to be engaging, but also when you're doing that, it's kind of scraping content that somebody else has spent a lot of time creating. So I always say, if you're concerned about using AI ethically, think about how you can use it to polish, not create something. So use your own words, literally brain dump everything that you know, all the amazing knowledge that you have, which is really, really valuable and unique, all those lived experiences. They are so valuable. So brain dump them down and just use AI to either turn that into a LinkedIn post, turn that into a blog post, whatever you need. Use that to do the polishing, and you stay as the creator with all that amazing knowledge that you have. Secondly, train it with your brand. So obviously I spoke about specifying a tone of voice that you're going to be using in your content. You can prompt AI, whichever tool you're using, whether that's Claude or ChatGPT, to write things in that tone of voice that it stays consistent. You can brief it on your charity's mission, the do's and don'ts you might have in like a language policy. You can brief it on all of those things to make sure that it's aligned with your policies and the vibe that you want to give within your content strategy. And the other hack that I've been using recently is to do a voice note. So you can, across Claude and ChatGPT, I think probably all of the AI features, they have a voice note function. So say, for example, if you've just gone to an event that you've hosted, or perhaps you have a topic that you want to create content around, you can literally voice note as if you're talking to somebody. Just brain dump everything that's in your head, and then you haven't even had to type it, and it will just create whatever content you want from that voice note recording, which is so great because not everyone, like I said, there's barriers to some people being able to actually write with ease. And so it's really great because it opens opportunities for everyone to get involved in content creation, just makes it as easy as possible for us to do that. So it's not all bad. It's definitely something I would suggest exploring to see if it works for you. Okay, so alongside the written content, we also want to have visually appealing posts that look good and that can support our writing. People have a very limited attention span, and so those visual assets are the things that are going to grab people's attention and that people are going to see first. They're much more likely to glance over an image and get a picture of what it is that you're sharing rather than sit and read like 200 words of content. So this is really the first and foremost thing you want to be considering. So again, similar to the tone of voice, you want to be thinking about setting a visual style. And most charities probably already have some sort of brand guide, or at least like a list of the colors and the themes that you use. If you find that you don't have that, or maybe it's been created years and years and years ago and no one's looking at it ever, it's definitely worth taking like 15 minutes or so just to sit down, and it can be as simple as writing down the color codes that you're using, writing down the fonts that you're using, thinking about how we're styling things. So in a minute, I'll show you some visual examples about what I mean when I say this, but almost writing down things you can come back to when you're creating something in Canva, for example, so that everything feels consistent. Choosing images wisely. So when I say images, I mean like photographs. So thinking about if you have the capacity and the resource to take your own photos or have a photographer take photos for your content bank, then amazing. A lot of us don't, so we're relying on using stock images sometimes. And to be honest, nowadays there's loads of stock photo sites that I'll put in the resource guide that I'll send out that don't feel too stocky, but you do just have to be intentional with scrolling through things to find a really good quality stock photo that you can use. It doesn't feel like you've just pulled it off of a stock photo site. So there's those options for that are free, but I guess my point is just be intentional about the images that you're using. Ideally, you want it to feel have a little bit of consistency between all the images, whether that's like the edit that's been used, how bright it is, does it feature your brand colors in the image is a really great thing to do. So thinking about using images wisely. And then keep it simple. So for example, especially when you're creating visual like infographic type designs, don't put too much text on there. You want to keep it really simple and straight to the point, so people can ultimately straight away see the main point that you're trying to communicate with them in the post. And when we think about visuals, I guess why it's important to consider these things is, if you were going to go to like a job interview, or if you're going to go meet someone for the first time, you want to make a great first impression. And one way that you would do that is to put a bit of effort into how you're showing up. It doesn't mean that you're going to turn up in a full suit and you've spent hours doing your hair. Obviously, you're going to bring your personality and however you feel comfortable, but equally, you are going to probably just not roll straight out of bed and then go and turn up to the job interview. You're going to make a little bit of effort. So it's the same thing about when we're sharing visual content on our social media. We can't assume that this is not the first thing people are seeing from us. We want to look like we are trustworthy, that we know what we're doing and we're capable. People still want to see all those things from us, even though we are a charity. It's not just because, it's not just applies if we're trying to sell people things. It applies to us as well. So it's really important that we show up visually in the best way, because this could be the first touch point that people are having with us and our cause. We want to be able to build that trust and put our best foot forward. So I've gathered up some examples to kind of show this in action. So top right is obviously Swidden. So you've gone through all of our slides I've created for this presentation, and these are some of the designs that we use across our social media. So you can see that there's some sort of consistency between them. So we've got the same font here, a similar layout. We've got our logo consistently used, and then we have some sort of like illustration to illustrate the content that we're sharing, the topic. So that feels pretty consistent. It's the same colors we use on our website and throughout our newsletter. So when people see that on our Instagram or our LinkedIn, they know that it's the same people as the website they were just on or the newsletter they received. It's really easy for them to recognize that as Swidden, and that helps build trust and makes us feel like we are a little bit put together. We know what we're doing. Help Cymru Africa also do this really, really well. So you can see it doesn't have to be exactly the same colors, but they have, this is part of their color scheme. So they have this deep purple, the cream, and they have these like circular accents behind that they use consistently across the board. So again, really, really nice, consistent visuals there. And then another charity that does this really, really well is Stand. So they do this really well in terms of like the photography, and I'm sure they have a good amount of resource to make sure they get these images. Not everyone has that, but as an example, you can see that the people that are in the photos, they are like jovial and happy, and they're very much the feature of the photo and the focus, with the foliage in the background, and the edit is all similar. So the colors are the same, the brightness is kind of set to the same setting, so it has a really nice consistent feel. So whenever you see a photo like this, you kind of recognize, oh, that's a Stand photo and I'm interested in what they have to say. Let me go and read the caption now that they've written, or let me read the blog post that they've put to support this. So it's just a really, really easy way to stand up from the crowd and grab someone's attention really quickly. As well, something I wanted to mention was in terms of, I guess, putting your best foot forward and making this visual appearance that feels a little bit more polished. When people are looking to support causes with either money or time or any opportunities and resources, they want to know that they are, I guess, putting those resources into an organization that is capable of managing those resources and making good decisions. So one way that we can show that we are, capable of making the most of those resources and that we're the right decision for them to invest in is by making sure that our visuals look put together. It's a really simple thing that we can do just to put our best foot forward. Okay, so how do we do all of this while avoiding burnout and remaining consistent? Because obviously, like I mentioned before, remaining consistent is one of the keys to an effective social media strategy. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have perfect visuals. You don't have to write the perfect caption. But if we can be consistent, that really, really helps in being at the forefront of people's minds, and it helps us get seen, as in logistically, the algorithm, if you're posting consistently, it's more likely to push your content in front of people. If you're posting twice 1 month and then you're posting you know, you miss a month and then you're posting 3 posts in a day, the algorithm's not going to push out your content to as many people as possible, which would be a shame. I've put this sunny pineapple person here because I feel like they're having a good time, and that's how we want to be feeling when we are doing our social media strategy. We don't want to be like all burnt out and stressed about social media. It's not worth it. But when we know that we are sharing our message and sharing our cause and doing our bit to try and get eyes on our charity, then we can celebrate and be having a good time doing it. So what we do in Swidden is we reuse and we repurpose the content. So a lot of people feel like they have to always create something new when they're creating social media. And what tends to happen a lot is we haven't got a plan. We don't have any bank of content to draw from. So on the day, we kind of feel like, oh, I haven't posted for a week. I need to make sure I post something. Or we've got this event coming up. I need to post something about this event. So then we're kind of scrambling under pressure to create an idea and then write the caption and bring the visuals together. And this comes from kind of the pressure, I guess, of always feeling you need to create something new on the spot. But we really don't need to do that, because in reality, repetition is actually helpful for us. If people see a similar thing multiple times, they're more likely to feel like they actually have taken all that information. On social media, people are frequently scrolling past things every few seconds. They don't always check their social media every day. Maybe they don't get notified when we've posted. So we might post something and they might not have even seen it. So don't feel like you have to create something new every single time you post. Definitely reuse and repurpose content. Use tools to support you. So that might be AI. It could be planning tools or organization tools like Trello or Notion. Use Canva templates you've created yourself that you can just plug and play different words into and different photos. You can use auto post and scheduling tools. All of these things will save you so much time and make things so much easier, so that you can kind of focus on what message you want to share rather than thinking about the, I guess, admin side of actually making it happen. And then create a content bank. So make sure that you have a backlog of ideas that you can simply draw from if you're not sure what to post that day, and store these ideas to use later. So I use Trello for Swidden, and I'll show you how I use that now. So are any of you familiar with Trello?
Not really, Rebecca.
No. Okay, it's a really simple, user-friendly tool, and it's free, so I'd really recommend it. So how I use this is you create a list like this. So we've got our some of our content pillars that we post around. So for example, for us, we might share our do a member spotlight. We do event promotion, and then we want to share the value of our Swidden membership here. So I've got lists for each content pillar, and then these white boxes here are called cards. So when you click in a card, you can store the caption that you've written here. I usually put a link to the Canva design I'm going to share for the visuals, and you can even make note of maybe other social media pages that you want to tag or that you want to reference. You can upload attachments here if there's particular images that you want to share along with it. So essentially you can build out a whole post idea in this place here and store it in Trello. So over time you'll end up with hundreds of post ideas. You can just simply go into Trello, and it has the whole caption written here that you've written and all the visuals you've created. And after a couple of months or so, you'll find that you actually don't need to create much at all from scratch. You can just go back and reference the posts that you've previously created and maybe tweak them or update them, and kind of grow the bank from there rather than creating things from scratch each time. And then what I do is you can literally drag and drop the different cards or content ideas into the month to plan it. For example, in June, I'll drag over whatever posts I feel are relevant. I might tweak things. If we have like an event, I'll use the same template for our events card, but I'll tweak the details and the dates and the description. And then it becomes so easy to plan ahead for the month, and draw inspiration from past posts that you've made. It saves so much time and just saves scrambling on the day for ideas of what to post. It also means that you can improve over time as well, because you have kind of what you used last time. You can bring that up again and think, oh, actually, people were asking this question about it. Let me include that next time. So you're just improving on things rather than recreating things again and again and again. The other free tool that I use to manage Swidden comms and make it really, really easy is to have a content calendar, a basic one, just in Google Sheets. I mean, I'm sure most of you have your own content calendar and how you manage that. But this works really, really well for me paired with Trello. So just for reference, I only support Swidden for 5 hours a week. So all of our comms that we do, even if it's like ad hoc stuff, so for example with our decolonization series, making sure that I've created new emails to go out for that and all the content around that, as well as our regular stuff that we share, like our membership value highlights and member spotlights. All of that's done within a couple of hours a week. So having this Trello system and paired with this content calendar is really, really helpful, and allows me to do that in such a short amount of time. So what I do is I set up this calendar in Google Sheets, and I literally plan out the month ahead of things I want to share. So I'll go through I have a list of our content pillars, and I make sure I include all of those things throughout the month. So, you know, I mentioned before those core content pillars to start with. So for example, impact, get involved, and connection, I think it was. So you want to make sure that you're like cycling through those topics throughout the month, and I write post ideas here in advance. And then when I have created built out the post, like the caption and the visual link in Trello, I will copy the link to the Trello card and I paste it into the content calendar. So when it actually comes to it, I can just click on the link and it will open up, and I just copy and paste into LinkedIn or into Blue Sky we use, and it just makes it so easy. Okay, so last point is, how do you actually measure what's working and what's not working? I think every social media or comms, so like social media management or comms role is different in terms of what the expectations are, what the capacity is. But one of the things I guess is important is to make sure that we're measuring what's working well and what's not, so that we can do more of what's working well and reduce what's not really making an impact. And it's not all about how many likes it's getting. Like I said before, people might not be engaging with your content, but just seeing it multiple times might mean that you'll get mentioned in rooms where they're deciding where to put funding this year. Or maybe they are mentioning, they saw this post on social media, they're mentioning that to their friend, and now their friend wants to go look at your website and get involved. So just because people might not be engaging on social media doesn't necessarily mean that it's not making an impact, but it is still useful to, I guess, keep an eye on what might be useful to do more of or less of. So if you don't have any kind of system for tracking analytics at the moment, one thing I think you should try to be aiming to as a minimum is having a 5-minute check-in each month and looking through what posts worked well. This is a really simple one. Most social media platforms will highlight which posts are best performing, and make a note of what that was, and then see if you can infuse more of that into your strategy going forward. What post got the most comments or shares? Did anything in particular lead to inquiries or signups? So did anyone get in touch with you guys and say, oh, I saw this post on so-and-so, can I find out more information? And so ultimately, what should we be doing more of based on this? So some key takeaways: you don't need to be absolutely everywhere. Obviously, in an ideal world, it'd be great to do so, but you don't need to be everywhere. Just pick 1 or 2 platforms so you can show up consistently. Consistency beats perfection. So it's better to create a system, prioritize creating a system that means that you can show up regularly, rather than thinking about creating the perfect post on the spot every day, because you're not going to have the time to do that, and it's going to lead to you being inconsistent and maybe going a few weeks without posting, and then another day you're posting every other day when you feel motivated again. Social media is key for relationship building. So it's not just about posting updates for what you're doing. It's a really, really important tool for building that trust and relationships with different audiences, which is even more important when we're looking for new sources of funding. And you can reuse and repurpose content. So you don't feel like you have to create something new every time. It's absolutely fine to reuse and repurpose content that you have used in the past to save you time. That was all the content. I would love to open up the space for any questions or discussion. I've highlighted a few points that might commonly come up, I guess, in the sector or the small charity space. Does anyone have any questions, or would you like me to run through these kind of common things that come up?
I don't have any questions, Rebecca. I think it has been really good. And I would love to have the presentation if possible.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really glad it was helpful. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I don't
Hannah,
have any. Sorry, Rebecca. I don't have any questions either. And yes, it was really useful for a complete beginner. It's great to just have the, the core things laid out. And yeah, any links and the presentation, as Mariana said, would be great.
yeah. Oh, perfect. Okay, I'm glad that it was helpful. It's so hard to know because I think probably people's responsibilities around social media and their knowledge around social media vary so much from organization to organization. So yeah, I'm really glad that it was helpful. Thank you for coming. I will go through these three quickly because I think it might be helpful, things that tend to come up when people are trying to implement the strategy. So one, I guess, around photo consent. If you have a photo policy that limits the type of content that you can share, the type of photos that you can share, there's ways to work around that in terms of making things engaging. So you might want to include some illustrations. The thing is that people tend to engage much more with photos of people. It's just the reality. But unfortunately, we don't always have the consent for to share the photos of those people. So we need to find ways to work around it. So one way to that is to include illustrations of people, to use stock photo sites, which I include in the resource list, to really find some good other good options for photos to use. Platform preferences, if you have, I guess, ethical considerations around certain platforms, I guess prioritize the other ones, and that's absolutely fine, because ultimately, unless you have the capacity to show up on all platforms, you're going to have to opt for one or two anyway. So if one is not suitable for ethical reasons, then that's absolutely fine. You will be fine nonetheless. The other thing I was going to talk about with platform preferences is something that's worth considering if you are potentially making a decision about moving from one platform to another, is considering like the equity that you have in a certain platform already. So maybe your goals are changing. Maybe you want to invest more time in finding corporate partners, but it's definitely worth considering how much equity you have in a platform already. If you already have quite a good following and a community and engagement on one platform, really thinking about, is it worth moving to another just because our goals have shifted slightly? Something that's just worth considering. And then time constraints. How do we do all this with limited resources? Again, just relying on the tools and systems and processes, not getting caught up with perfectionism, and planning ahead is probably a key thing that helps here. But yeah, that was all. Thank you so much to both of you for coming, and everyone that's going to watch us on the recording. We'll send out a resources to support this. I know I've mentioned a lot of tools that you might not be familiar with, so I'll make sure to send links for that as well for you guys to use.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
I've taken loads of notes.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. It would be nice to have your contact as well. If you can drop it in chat, that would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Hannah can probably send out anything anyone needs.
Yeah.
Or email.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great.
I was just going to say, I'm really glad, Rebecca, that you said how many hours you work for Svid in a week. And I was just also going to say, within the 2 hours that you create and generate the content, we're on two two platforms, but then obviously all of our newsletters, all of our engagement. So I'm amazed every week at how much Rebecca achieves. It's absolutely incredible, but I hope it's inspiring to you both.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that, just because it's just so possible to do. I mean, there's so much more I'd love to do for Swidden, but it is absolutely possible by using like some tools and systems to post regularly. So I think I try and post. I think we post like 4 to 5 times, maybe 3 to 5 times a week across LinkedIn and Blue Sky, and maybe do 1 to 2 email marketing touch points a week as well, and then a few ad hoc things. So these systems really help me. So if you are a team that's very time poor, or you need to invest your time elsewhere, having everything systemized just means you can always put it on autopilot. So yeah, I really hope that these things help you guys if you're in a similar situation.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Rebecca.
welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and have a good weekend.
Yeah, you
See you
too.
again
Bye.
soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.